Well, welcome to week 3 of Developing Leaders. We're really glad to be in this with you. Dr. Martinez and I want to provide some context and also some explanation of why we chose one of our initial engagements would be with this strength-based leadership, and also kind of to set the frame for it and some of what the engagement will be when we gather together. So there's just, I would say, broadly speaking, two things that we're hoping will happen as you engage with this particular material. One is that you'll be affirmed in some things that are really unique about you. So that's the fingerprint there on the screen. We really think that's primary for you to, as you begin to engage and develop leadership skills, to begin out of affirmation and not critique. That's something that we want to do for you, and it's a leadership skill that we would encourage you to develop as you work with others as well. That when we're seeing others, we're seeing strength, we're seeing gifts, we're seeing things that they bring to what we want to do together and how we long for the world to be different and better. The other thing is we want growth. We want to grow ourselves, and we want to offer you the opportunity to grow. And this particular instrument, we believe, gives us an opportunity to do that. I'll say more about that. It's not the only place that this kind of thing can happen, but for some reasons we have chosen this. So affirmation, unique, some things that are unique about you, and then places where we can develop skills and capacities in ourselves, both critical things as we be leaders, as we grow as leaders, but also as we develop other leaders. Todd Bolsinger, in his most recent book, it actually just got released. This is a book that follows up on Canoeing the Mountains, and we'll talk with you more about Canoeing the Mountains, give us all an opportunity to reflect on the context of that book, some things that we can learn from it, and also some particular things that we've got some questions about it. But he's followed up with a book called Tempered Resilience. In it, after telling a wonderful story about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking at the Lincoln Memorial and talking about the type of leadership that both got him there and that demonstrated for the world, he says to us, hewing hope from despair is hard work. That this work of leading, which involves emotions, which involves other people, which involves disagreement, it's hard work. It's not something that just happens. Transforming discord into a beautiful symphony takes deliberate, diligent, and dedicated people. Leading adaptive change requires more from us than we can muster with our good intentions. I mean, there's a sense that what we're doing and what we're longing for is beyond us, and that's a theological statement even. He says here it requires forging. And then he says that a tempered leader is formed in leading, as we reflect, as we're in relationships, and we've got a rule of life and a rhythm of leading and not leading. And this strength-based leadership here is an opportunity for reflection. And so that's one of the reasons that we're doing it. Then he says a tempered leader has resilience formed with a grounded identity and a teachable, attuned, adaptable, and tenacious character. And here again, we're doing some identity work and helping us to identify who we are. And also, one of the things this instrument can do is to help us understand other people and what they can bring. Tempered leader hammers resilience into people through managing reactivity, reframing, reorienting, leading relationally. So here we are reframing ourselves in a certain way so that we can understand ourselves and one another. And then he says, like a tempered tool that is made stronger and more flexible than raw material, a leader often needs to be sharpened, honed, and reforged again and again and again. We believe that these things happen for us and in us over the course of our lifetimes and really need to keep on happening. A reminder as we kind of pace into this material, we've said that a leadership is choosing focus to ensure the proper balance of relationship, task, and learning so that God's people follow God farther into God's reign or God's kingdom. And there are different definitions of leadership. I think I read that there's just thousands of them even. So this is what we're using to frame our class because we need some kind of framing device. It might not match exactly what you are, but it'll help you understand why we're doing things at certain times. The question with that definition is, how do we choose focus? And we think that choosing is best done as we understand ourselves, our own motivations and drives, and as we understand other people. So here we are kind of right at the beginning saying, okay, how can we understand ourselves? How can we, with that, gain freedom to know what we can bring, what other people can bring? So that's part of what we're hoping for you here. Also, we're doing theological integration. And so again, this is a reminder of something that you've seen before. We believe there's a relationship between what we believe and how we interact with the world. So we want to develop that what we say we believe about God, we actually believe about God, aren't always the same thing. And so for leadership, that means we explore those things, not just through leadership theory, and we'll do some of that, but we're actually not starting with leadership theory. We're starting with some things that help us understand ourselves. But with what we do as leaders, our own stories of leadership, what we use as leaders. And so this is an opportunity for us to reflect on our account of leadership, what we bring to it. We want to think theologically about social science and what it offers. We don't want to discount that. Sometimes people say, well, why don't we just use the Bible, or why don't we just look at biblical characters? And we did that, but we want to think about ourselves with all the knowledge that we've got. We believe that God has made all things, and so there's good a lot of places. And all of this means self-reflection is crucial. So understanding ourselves helps us lead theologically and lead well. And so that's part of what we're giving ourselves the opportunity to do here. Broadly speaking, there are two types of kind of assessments and instruments. There's personality instruments, and then there's things that we can do that do attitude, skill, or ability. And I want to say just a little bit about these, and then a little bit about where this strength-based leadership fits into it. The personality instruments are about who we are, what we like, what our preferences are in terms of interacting with the world. Often the focus is on understanding ourselves and others better so we can interact more naturally, bring our gifts and uniqueness to the table, and also appreciate others. We go, oh, here's me, here's you, both are good. They help with team building, interpersonal interactions, and at their best, really even dealing with stress. And when they're used correctly, they don't just celebrate who we are, they help us understand what happens to us when we feel and experience stress, and also they build in us skills to encounter and appreciate difference. Some of them are the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Enneagram that's been mentioned in class, DISC. There's an instrument called the Core Values Instrument. There's learning style instruments about how best we learn: visual, verbal, oral, hearing, physical. There's an instrument called the Big Five, which measures our openness to experience, our conscientiousness, our extroversion, our agreeableness, and our levels of neuroticism. It's a little bit of a hybrid that tries to do this, but there's a lot of these. Just the core idea is that all styles are good. So if you've done the Myers-Briggs, then we say when we do that, we say, well, if you're an extrovert, good. Here's some good things. If you're an introvert, good. Both are good. One's not better than the other. But let's learn and appreciate one another. They help people learn to work in different environments, and they focus on skill development so that we can work in a broader capacity or choose to remain where we are, i.e., some jobs have an extroverted functioning, and you learn it or you find something else. But it's good to know that about ourselves and about the places where we work. So those are those kinds of personality instruments. There are also skill aptitude instruments. They're different. They focus on maturity. They focus on things that we do. And the point is to give us a measurement so we can grow in these areas. In these, it literally is higher is better. There's an explicit evaluation that happens to us when we do these instruments. Some of those are the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Instrument. It's the most widely used instrument in clinical psychology. It measures psychopathology, anger, cynicism, anxiety, self-esteem. And so if you've done that, and often people actually do this as they prepare for ministry, then we get a measure. We talk about, well, here's the measure of kind of the anger. What are we going to do about that? And this one, higher is not better, lower is better, but there's a measure, and you're trying to improve in terms of who we are as a person. IQ can be included here. There are multiple theoretical conversations about how good IQ is, but just it can be speak here. There's one called emotional intelligence, and there's leadership energy levels. This is the leadership energy levels, and you probably can't see this because it's probably pretty small on your screen, but it starts and says, there's people who are apathetic, and then there's people who are angry, and people who can forgive, and people who have compassion, and people who have peace, people who have joy, and people who have absolute passion. And it says it's better for us in the world if we can move out of apathy, and if we can let go of anger, if we can move towards passion. The emotional intelligence, we do this as well. And in this, you get a score. And we're not doing it in this class, partially because we've moved towards this strength-based leadership because it leads with affirmation. We decided to do this. But we recommend this. It pairs well with the strength-based leadership because here is an opportunity to develop particular skills around being emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence, if you do it, you learn about your self-awareness, self-management, and it's kind of self and others. And these are good things to do. In these kinds of instruments, growth is possible, usually, but that's often the goal. It builds self-awareness, and it helps us to understand what others are experiencing as well. You can know other person's strength, pitfalls, and areas of growth. These instruments often involve challenging and rewarding intrapersonal work and interpersonal work, but often it's inside us that things need to happen. We recommend it, and we think it's really good for us to do to grow as a leader. We're doing strength-based leadership. We think strength-based leadership probably leans more towards the personality side, but it does give us the ability to grow. It is affirming, and we like that. It fits with our definition of leadership because it helps us understand ourselves so we can choose well and understand others so that we can help others design strategies to lead towards the future. We like that it doesn't lead with critique. We think that's a good leadership strategy. We think that helps us. And we think it integrates with our theology. We're people, Dr. Martinez and I are people who believe that each person is created uniquely in God's image, that each person brings unique gifts. And so this fits theologically with that. And it may or may not fit with where you are theologically, and that's a good, robust conversation for us to have. But it helps you understand our choices for this particular class. We know that nothing is perfect, that leaning into social science definitions brings challenges with it, but we do think that this is a good way for us to begin to understand ourselves so that we can know how and why we're leading theologically. You'll get this as you engage the book, but big picture, it's saying that there are 4 domains of strength. People are good at executing, people are good at influencing, people are good at relationship building, people are good at strategic thinking. You'll notice that some of those are a little more internal, some of those are a little more external, and it's good for us to know where we fit and also what is necessary. They'll say that all these things are necessary organizationally, and that's part of the growth area for us to know who we are and then to be able to include others. They'll drill down into some more specific areas in each of these broader categories, and you can find out more about yourself and what you bring to the table. And then we'll share these and we'll find what other people bring to the table. And one of the fun things for us about doing this is we'll get a picture of our class. And are we a class that is primarily a class that wants to get things done, executing, or are we primarily a class that likes to think? Often, quite frankly, in schools, we find people who are thinkers. And it's good for those of us who fall more that way to go, oh, right, all of leadership requires not just strategic thinking, it also requires getting stuff done. It requires working with other people, and all of that is necessary. Some questions for you to ponder as you read this and as we prepare for being together. As you read our books, what connections do you see between their ideas about leadership? Might they push back on strength-based leadership? How would it help to integrate this with what they are saying? And then for you yourself, where are you strong? What growth areas are you? What would be helpful for you to discuss with the class? We'll give people an opportunity to do this. We don't require help more than what would be comfortable self-disclosure for people, but we do encourage other people to share these good things that are inside of us that we bring. We look forward to doing that, and we invite you to, of course, send us any questions so that we can continue to interact with you.